One, two, three. This is Dan. It's November 1st, 2025, and I'm being interviewed again by Liam Cooper after 20 plus minutes of fucking around with Zoom and Teams and all these other fucking bullshit applications. Yeah, when you deal with this stuff, you wonder how, there's going to be no fucking robot apocalypse if they can't figure out this shit.
It'll be a very mediocre revolution, yes.
Yeah.
The Terminator will come back and he'll have like a peg leg and like a fucked up eye. Yeah.
All right, so whatever you want to talk about, Liam.
This is why I drank, Dan. Well, there's many things. Well, I guess
Oh my God.
there's a few things actually, just because who else am I going to talk to about William Volman? Exactly. I know you're not a fan, but me and you are two of the 7 people in the world who know who he is.
Yeah.
So
There's that famous photo of him where he looks like he's about 11 years old with a gun to his head. That's his claim to fame.
here's the thing is Mr. Bill Volman, if I can call him Bill, has had a very challenging last couple of years. I can't say I've read all million pages of his work, but I've read most of his articles over the last few years just out of morbid curiosity, and things have not been going well. He's currently suffering from colon cancer, so
Oh,
for
geez.
some odd reason he watches.
And for those idiots, I don't wish anything but him for the best to recover from that. And go get regular colonoscopies. I had one a few months ago, and my colon is whistle clean. Drink kefir. Kefir is the best thing to get a good biome down there.
I see. So, and again, it's just kind of serendipity, synchronicity, call it what you will.
And
But
I have to say, Liam, you look much more dapper now than you did 9 or 10 months ago. Are you coming back
have
from the hot
I
date?
have I informed you of the unfortunate news, Mr. Schneider?
You've got colon cancer.
Matriculated into law school.
Oh, okay.
Even worse, even much worse. Yes,
What field in law?
comparative law, which is analyzing how Germany versus America would try a similar case.
Oh,
People
okay.
go, that's not a firm. You can't get a job with that. So I think currently my glorious ambition is to do appeals. What a world. Maybe even the illustrious career of the appellate division of the Oregon State Tax Court. Very fancy. But I appreciate the compliment. The other bete noire of Mr. Schneider, which must be brought up, is Mr. One Thomas Ruggles Pynchon has released a new novel at the golden age of 88 years old. Have you read it?
No, I mean, I actually spoke with a kid, someone a month or two ago. I mean, I've read the North and South one, the Civil War book. I read Gravity's Rainbow. I think I read a collection of essays or short work stories.
Yeah.
So only 3 or 4 books of his I've read, but nothing compels me, and nothing that you could say would probably compel me to want to give it another shot.
No, I just find, I mean, how often does a 88-year-old Thomas Pynchon release a new novel in the same month that Paul Thomas Anderson released One Battle After Another, the film? Did you see it? As a film critic, I did not imagine you would.
No, in fact, today I saw, in the last week, I've seen 2 Aki Kaurismäki films, the Finnish filmmaker, and one, my wife and I finished watching this documentary about this woman named Q Lazarus, who was a mediocre singer at best in the 1980s, and the Bruce Ario documentary. I don't know, did I send you a link? Did you watch that?
I watched, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's so much better than this Q Lazarus documentary.
Of course.
Anyway,
a legend in his own time. So the Finnish filmmaker Aki isn't very pessimistic, bleak Nordic vibe.
He's a lesser Jim Jarmusch.
Interesting. Lesser Jim Jarmusch. I was gonna say a lesser Ingmar Bergman, but I guess that's just
No,
the
he's
ennui.
much too quirky. I'll tell you, and I just said to my wife Jessica an hour or so ago. I said Jarmusch is a solid filmmaker at best. He's hit and miss. The two Kaurismäki films that I've seen, one is mediocre, one is sub mediocre because of a terrible last 20 minutes or so. Uh,
Mm,
but they're both trying to be Mike Leigh, the British filmmaker.
yeah,
Leigh can
yeah,
do
yeah.
quirky characters. He can do interesting situations, and even if when he's not fully successful, you get a depth of character that neither Kaurismäki nor Jarmusch have ever gotten. The closest I think Jarmusch ever got was maybe Ghost Dog, which I enjoy as a film, but isn't a great film.
That's my favorite Jarmusch. I like the coffee and cigarettes just
That
for the.
yeah. But then again, it's so Bill Murray. Murray, uh, he's got that Bill Murrayizes everything, and
It's true.
so he doesn't have a great range.
It's true, but as a historic time capsule, where else am I going to get to see Iggy Pop, Tom Waits, the RZA, and Bill Murray interact in some strange coffee shop?
Yeah,
Kind of.
it's not a bad film, but I mean, it's not Orson Welles.
This is true. Ghost Dog, though. I like Ghost Dog, the pigeons. But again, I like it mostly as a. I just like the era. I just like the cinematography.
And along with Cassavetes' gangster film, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, it has probably a, even though it's a comedy, basically a dark comedy, it has a
Yeah,
very realistic portrayal of the gangsters, much better
yeah,
than The Sopranos or Goodfellas or obviously The Godfather, which is just Shakespeare.
this is true. So, as someone who grew up as to quote like Henry Hill, this is your own words, I believe. How much when I think of Goodfellas, when I think of these mobsters, all I think about is cocaine. Any experiences in a young Schneider's life with the field of white china?
Well, I never did it. The only time I ever took any drug was 3 or 4 drags on a joint when I was 11 in 6th grade, and I got kind of ill, and I was like, "Fuck that." You have to remember if you've read any of my stuff, and have you read the Vincetti Brothers or Norwegian or any
Of course,
make
but
okay,
they're very long works,
yeah,
my friend.
but no, so I've never done the drugs, but when I was a kid, I write about having soliciting me and my buddies delivering drugs because the gangsters and even not the gangsters but the dealers knew if they just paid 25-50 cents back then to us, we take them and we just say, oh, we found it in the park, we were just walking with it,
Right.
we thought it was candy or some shit.
You'll have to explain Cassavetes to me. He's always somewhat eluded me. I love Peter Falk. I mean, I get parts of it, but some of it feels too 70s. I just can't. I don't understand the context.
Goodfellas doesn't feel 60s and 70s. I mean, it's soaked in that same era. I mean, what do you mean it's two 70s?
No, I mean it's too removed from what I've personally experienced, so I
Oh,
can't like as a work of art. How was he viewed as like a response to New Hollywood, or was he seen as more like an American French New Wave?
well, Orson Welles. Well, a lot of times you would hear that Cassavetes was the father of American independent film. Then people like John Sayles came along to carry the torch. That would make Orson Welles the grandfather. But
right, exactly,
but
yeah,
Cassavetes was a good actor himself. He was in a number
yeah.
of films, probably most famously the one in '68 with Mia Farrow, the Devil's Child. What was it called? Oh, I can't remember it.
Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby, yeah. And so, but I mean, his works in that sense were revolutionary. In '59, he did his first film, which is about a half black woman involved with going on something. It's just more or less a slice of life, but it was not a great film. But it was pushing boundaries of what was acceptable then.
I
Then
see.
1968 Faces, which was a black and white film. I mean, that's just a titanically great film. I mean, it's just relentless in its. I mean, people talk about something like Glenn Ross, the play and the
Mhm.
film, with Alec Baldwin huffing and puffing.
Always be closing.
I mean, that's an okay film. It's got some good moments. It's got some overblown moments. But Faces is a much more searing look into American corporations and how things are sold and the lives of the people. How these people are basically husks of human beings. What's her name? Cassavetes' wife, Jenna Rollins. I mean, she's just in his films, and the one film she did for Woody Allen, Another Woman. I mean, she can lay claim to at least five great performances. They're as good as any female actress has on her resume. That opening night, which is about an actress in an off Broadway play, and what's the other one? The one about a woman under the influence. That's her most famous one. I don't think it's her best one. Faces.
Mm.
She's terrific. Gloria, which is much better than the remake. I forget who was it. Sharon Stone who did the Gloria remake. I don't remember. But Gloria isn't a great film, but it's another terrific performance. And so Cassavetes in the '70s, yeah, he did touch upon especially the urban life in the 1970s. Have you ever seen Killing of a Chinese Bookie?
No.
Okay, watch the longer version. The shorter
Okay.
version is a very good film. The longer version is a total masterpiece. There's one scene towards the end of the
Mm.
film where the lead character, played by Ben Gazzara, is shot, and he's lying in one of his strippers' bedroom with the woman and mother who are trying to stanch his wound, and he gives. It's one of the great monologues in film history. In fact, talking about life, and he's going seems to be going in and out of consciousness, and yet it's just a static shot upon him and the girlfriend trying to patch him up, and you know Ben Gazzara never had anything in Hollywood the way that and a couple of other roles he had with Cassavetes. Cassavetes was the quintessential director for actors. Actors loved him, and you can just see it on screen. No wonder,
Mm.
no wonder.
An actor's director. Well, I mean, I was gonna say, like, do you think that comes from the script or from his directing? And I think it
Probably
from
both.
his
I
a
would
little
say
bit of
probably
both.
both. But by the way, so was there anything particular about Volman? Because we sort of dropped him, other than his being ill.
Well, he's ill. No, he's written some interesting articles, and he kind of, in a sense, he's become a bit of a touch point because he worked a lot with the homeless directly, and that's just becomes an increasing issue year after year. And so the work he's had writing about his experience trying to hit his, I think his daughter passed recently, so it's just been a kind of a late bit of a late renaissance for Volman. I don't think he's released any works recently, but he released an article, I believe, through the Catholic Church. It was an essay on an encyclical that the Pope wrote, basically discussing the relationship and the goodwill of humanity. But I mean, as Volman himself notes, he writes by the yard. It's not. It's kind of reminds me of what Capote said about Kerouac. It's typing, not writing. It's
Yeah.
just wallpaper writing, where it's just
I've
going
often I've
on
often thought of him as the prose version of Bukowski.
as the what version of
The
Bukowski?
prose version. I know
Mm,
Bukowski wrote some prose, but he's most known for his poetry. And if you were to
true.
think of a prose version of the Bukowski's poems, it would be Volman's prose. And I've never read a full long work of his. I've read, I think he had a novella or two, and I have somewhere, unless I sold it back with David Foster Wallace's shit. I had a William Volman reader, which was about 1,200 pages and had like 150 of this book, 200 pages of that. Had five or six. So other than that, I mean, I've only read one or two short works of his, and they're so stupendously boring.
I like his, well, I like his journalism more than his prose because I just like the image of this Neebish guy going to Afghanistan. I think that, I don't know, I'd watch a movie about it, but reading 7 volumes of William Vollmann's thoughts on violence, I do not have the time.
Well, that's sort of like this documentary about this woman, Q Lazarus. You know it.
Oh, Goodbye Horses.
Yeah,
Yes.
goodbye horses. You've seen it?
I haven't seen it. I know the song.
Oh,
Yeah, she was like a bus driver and then she disappeared.
yeah, and then she became a crack addict and a
Oh,
prostitute, and
there you go.
if you
Right.
want if
Well,
a better film about in a similar vein is there's one about this guy Sixto Rodriguez. I forget the name of the film, uh, but Jessica and I saw that maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think he recently died too. He was someone who had one or two minor hits in the late '60s.
Searching for Sugar Man.
Searching for Sugarland.
searching for
Sugar Man,
Sugar
Sugar
Man,
Man, Sugar
yes,
Man, she says.
becomes
My
huge
wife just
in
comes in and
South
whispers on my
Africa.
shoulder.
Exactly. Yeah, and he like just he lived in Detroit without,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to him, he had become a
And he
massive
was running for like
superstar.
an assemblyman position when they found him doing the documentary or something.
Sugar Man. Well, let's get into the recent first part of a trilogy on the Proto-Indo-European peoples. And I have to assume the impetus was there was a Harvard genetic DNA study that said that the source of the Proto-Indo-European culture, because we had the language, we didn't know where it originated, but it was in the Proto-Caucasus steppe, the Eurasian steppe, which is, as we all know, the setting of life and its occupants, written by one Mr. Dan Schneider from September 23rd to October 2nd, 2025. That's 9 days, Dan. You're slowing down. What happened?
Well, I wanted to do, and sometimes things just happen away. I've done a lot of long plays, 30, 40,000 plays, and then 5 volume redo of Jason and Medea, that
True, I
kind of thing.
noticed this was a little shorter.
And so this one I just wanted, and when you're going back in time to do something, the situation and the life situations of individuals are not going to be as complex. So uh, there are the people that I refer to here as the Yamnaya, or the grave pit people. Then there's the Transoxiana Society that is north of Afghanistan, and then there's what are they called, the Boer people or something. Uh, but anyway, so I'm gonna do a trilogy on them. The first one I wanted to do though was this one, because the Amnaya are genetically thought to be the people who made Europe whiter. Because at the time they existed, about 5,000 years ago, if you were to go back, like when they find the bog mummies in northern Germany, Denmark, the Low
Dark
Countries.
skinned.
What?
Dark skinned, the
Yeah,
Chitter Man.
they may not be as dark as your darkest Africans, but they're probably closer to what African Americans were, and they did have more, I guess, Caucasian features. But the Yamnayas are amongst the first people that had blonde hair, some blonde hair. Maybe it was only 10-20% of them, and also blue eyes. So it's interesting. So here you have the beginning of that. Now, I'd also done a play. I did a couple of plays about the Vikings. The Vikings meaning the Mi'kmaq people of what's now the St. Lawrence Gulf area in Canada, and then also them meeting the Sami people, who are very pale and very white, but are considered native peoples of what's known as Lapland, or yeah. So anyway, but the impetus was, I was like, well, what can I do here? Because I don't want to make it too scientific, too this or that. And so I said, well, why don't I rework one of the more primal myths here? And so I took the Cain and Abel
Right.
story, but I put it in something more complex. It's not just about them going to God. The leader of a local group, and because they occupied an area probably the size of 2 Texases there, and
Pretty
so
big.
there would be, I figured there'd be clusters of villages, and then there would be, each cluster would have their own leadership councils or whatnot. And so the play opens with the leader of one of these Yamna tribes having died. His name is Lord, Lord. So I try to give that a little obviousness. And then the rest, it follows a family where you have Cain and Abel, known as Quan and Ogle, in there. And they're both being manipulated by the farm faction and the hunter-gatherer faction. Hold on, my cat Petula is... Stop it! Stop it! You're such a video bomber. You've done this 3 straight things. Go. Hey, Jessica, take Petula here. My cat Petula has been video bombing by knocking... Take her. Take her and keep her occupied. Put her in the room with baby. Jesus.
I mean, that's the first question I should have asked is, how are the cats?
What?
Yeah. The first question I should have asked you is, how are the cats?
Yeah, they're doing good. So yeah, and so basically, and it ends with the death, not with the Cain trying to kill the Abel character.
Well, don't spoil
failed.
the ending, Dan.
Oh, who cares? I don't care. But it fails. Because they're ambushed by some other factions.
Tribe.
Yeah, and it ends with a very documentary, like, you know, this tale became mythos and evolved over time. But it's just to give a slice. There's that famous what's it called, the Quest for Fire film. Did you ever see that in the 80s?
I got it right here. The Ron Perlman film, which Anthony Burgess helped with the language. I had some questions about that, but
yeah,
go on.
I mean, I'm not an expert on that film, but I had that in the back of my... Hold on. Okay. You'll be in bed. You want to go in the room? Yeah, you come in here. You come in.
Mr. Schneider takes an intermission.
Yeah.
For his feline acquaintances.
He's gonna come in. You can come in if you want. So that I had that film in the back of my mind, and that was, that. Okay, now if you just barged in, come on.
Well, that's part of the first immediate thing that I noticed with the play. Was it starts with the tildes as a stand-in for the language, because, as you note, it's a language that we don't know, and I'm not going to... Basically, I get the feeling that you're not going to waste your time trying to come up with some concocted conlang. They can just make noises, and we all get the picture. Let's get to the story.
And I've done that before, and the reason to do that is twofold. For the actors, if let's say I have 100 tildes, that can mean you should speak for about 100 words, or if it takes up 3.5 lines, you can fill them in and do that. So it engages the actors to do more. Plus, when I've used it in other plays, like I think I started with the Mongol trilogy I did, and I've done it where I've had other things too. Is that it does give that otherness to it. And yeah, it allows for more interpretation. Because one of the things I wanted to do also by making these shorter plays under 20,000 words or so is to hopefully at some point in the future before I'm dead, entice people to take more of a chance by saying, okay, here, you can do, here's the frame. Your meeting will end in 10 minutes. What the hell is this? Well, we can just, I think, double dip and go back into it. Let's see here. Is that 40 minutes? Anyway, okay.
More structural freedom by giving them the framework that they can, I guess, modularly add on to as they see fit.
Yeah. Just do that. If we get cut off, go back to that link that I sent
for sure.
and go back, and I think you can do it that way. But anyway, yeah. So that's a recent play I did. The play of mine that I think is the best one of say the last handful of plays that I've done was the one that I did about George Stinney, the young black boy that was wrongly accused of killing two little white girls and was killed by South Carolina in the 40s. Have you read that one?
I haven't read it. I know the case.
Yeah. So what I did there, it's called, uh, anyway, well, basically it has his sister years later pursuing the case, and we open up with the Rashomon thing of the 4 points of view: George, his sister, and the two dead girls, and what happened. And basically nothing happened. It's most likely that someone named George, I forget his last name, a white guy killed it, a guy who was a well-known pervert apparently in that time and era. But they blamed the boy, and so that's I think a really touching play. Anyway,
I mean, I was reading about there was a lynching in Waco of over 100 years ago, but there was an entire industry around selling the postcards of photographs of just people being murdered as like, and it wasn't necessarily a racist thing. People would just use them as postcards until eventually, I think a Supreme Court case, I think, came up that basically outlawed sending them as postcards, but you could still put them in envelopes because they were regarded as obscene. But just the idea that it was obscene for somebody to see that as a recipient of mail, but the actual fundamental issue, that's for Texas to deal with. Just this, honestly, like a framework, a foundation for what you would later see in Nazi Germany, like just the indiscriminate murder of people in an entire town, taking fucked up glee in it and turning it into souvenirs.
well, I mean, this Texas Waco is where you had the Branch Davidians 30 years ago. So I mean,
Some things never change. Yeah. What do you recall what brought you to the Steiny case?
To the what case?
The case about your play on the
George Stinney.
Rashomon situation. Stinney.
Yeah. It's just all. There's a famous photo of him, or several photos. He was only like 90 pounds and 5'1" at the age of 14. He was malnourished. He had to sit on a stack of books. Some people say it was a phone book. Some people say it was a Bible. Others say it was whatever. And then apparently the skull cap was too big for his tiny head, and there's these several photos where you just see him totally, with tears coming down his face, and it's just a very searing image. And that, to me, the fact that he was killed by the state makes it even worse than what happened to Emmett Till and many other people who were lynched by private mobs, because here the state is giving its sanction, because he was probably no bigger than the girls themselves, and the idea that he would be able to kill two of them is ridiculous.
He would have made a great lawyer. Well, and I just saw I was at a lecture by Professor Judith Resnick on impermissible punishments, and the idea that we've, even back in 1960s, it was permissible to just whip somebody or flog them in the state of Alabama, and now we view that as repugnant. In the same way that arguably capital punishment is going to be viewed as repugnant within a couple decades, hopefully. But to the point that you made, the same people that support capital punishment will be the same people to tell you, I don't trust the government. They're wasteful with my tax dollars. They don't know how to put up traffic lights. But I do trust them to adjudicate the death of somebody is a completely ridiculous and absurd position to take.
Well, corporal punishment was still allowed in New York public schools up until, I think, around the same time Roe versus Wade came, early 70s.
Exactly.
I might have missed it by a year or two, or there might have been, but I never got. I mean, you could rap someone on the knuckles with a ruler.
Sister Mary Elephant situation. Well, and it's technically under tort law. There's often exemptions for parents that you wouldn't normally get. Like if I came up and spanked you, you would be able to sue me for battery unless you paid me for it. But if you're a parent, there's a lot of odd exemptions, and these are all why. Why do we keep these things around, Dan? We may never know. The I had it, but so the names in circling back a little bit in life and its occupants. Did those actually come from Proto-Indo-European, or were those Schneiderian?
A couple of them, like Quan, was. I mean, for example, the father's name is Dama.
Yes.
If you remember the Battlestar Galactica, it was Adama or Adam. So, and then there's Eve, which is the sunset. So Moro is the mother or sunrise. Then you
Mm,
have Quan and Ogle. It sounds like
Italy.
Abel, and then a couple of others.
I see. Now, what I've also noticed about your plays is that they're no bullshit theater plays. These aren't film scripts that I'm calling a play. They're legitimately very dialogue heavy, minimal amount of scenes, and you provide a broad swath for the actors and even the dramaturgists and the costume designers, set designers to do as they please. You often put in this uh, statement that the atmosphere is more important than the actual accuracy of the performance. I
Mm-hmm.
was just somewhat curious if you this play in particular feels kind of like a natural history museum diorama, although it we can get into this later, but it's part one of a trilogy, so it's got to be going somewhere. But my
Well,
question was,
it's in a trilogy that's associated. They're not going to be. There's not going to be any
oh,
carryover because they're set. They're set. They're three different peoples. They're set hundreds of years apart.
gotcha. Well, I was just curious if you had in your mind an ideal theater. Like, do you have it? Is this being projected as if you're seeing it being performed in front of you, or are you more or less recording imaginary events that may or may not have happened? Is this more a transcription or a depiction, I suppose?
It depends on the play. I mean, I see when I'm on a roll, and this is I'm Alex Sherritt and Joel Parrish, who did the Bruce film, are now doing a film on Don Moss and James Emanuel, two other poets. I want them to do like I did with that how to write a great sonnet a video that I did 25 years ago. I want to write a play, 20 hours, 25 hours, whatever it takes for a film to go explain in film, and I do that because I want to show that creativity isn't something where you reach up and pull it down from the gods. It's something that you work at, and you do it by constantly just churning over and working the stuff. And that that involves in drama, in stage drama, doing stuff that makes the actors and the director want to be more involved. Give them more of a feel. Let them, if they can afford to use this prop, they can do it. If they can't, you can just do it imaginarily. But the import is, again, as I've said, plot is character, character is plot,